Simmons here.
Grillo here.
David here.
Guzikowski here.
Oldani here.
Seifert here.
Chandler here.
Would everybody please take a look at the minutes of May 28th and let me know if there's any omissions, errors, questions, corrections. You're satisfied? Motion, please.
Seifert moves to approve the minutes of May 28th, 2019.
Chandler seconds.
Roll call.
Simmons abstain.
Grillo, aye.
David, aye.
Guzikowski, aye.
Oldani, aye.
Seifert, aye.
Chandler, aye.
Item 4 is significant common council actions. Carrie.
Council approved the following: a resolution approving an affidavit of correction submitted by Erica Nicole Harris of Wiz Park LLC, removing a reference to an undisturbed 20-foot buffer on Lot 1 of CSM 9131 located at 280 West Oakview Parkway. Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Carrie. New business, item 5A is a minor land division for a certified survey map submitted by the county at 3810 East American and 9050 South Annette. Carrie, would you please bring us up to speed?
The proposal is to relocate the shared parcel boundary between the two that are shown on red on the screen right here. This exhibit shows what is current, which is the yellow line between the two properties. The red outline is what is being proposed for future development, and then the black line is showing the reduced Lot 2 area. And this is the proposed CSM. Each lot will be conforming for the RS4 single-family residential district. This allows Lot 1 to be maximized for development potential in the future. There are no immediate plans for developing either of these properties at this time. No wetlands have been delineated. However, this is just moving that common property boundary between the two lots. So in the future, when any development is proposed on these two lots, a delineation will be required prior to any development or any review of any development. As is included in your conditions of approval for consideration, staff is recommending that a note be placed on the map that no delineation has been done at this time, but would be required in the future. Also required is a 25-foot public water easement across Lot 2. Temporary easements for the temporary cul-de-sacs at Brian Dean Court and Annette Place on Lot 2. There are future roads or right-of-way dedications that would also be required. There is a future road pattern through both lots. And any dedication of public rights-of-way must be reflected in the Common Council approval signature block that is on the final page of the CSM. If the Plan Commission is satisfied with the proposed CSM, there is a suggested motion that the Plan Commission recommends to the Common Council that the certified survey map or minor land division submitted by David Saldani, Milwaukee County, for the properties at 3810 East American Avenue and 9050 South Annette Place be approved, subject to conditions 1 through 5. Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Carrie. Would the county like to come up and give a little explanation of why the division now?
Mr. Mayor, David Cialdini, Milwaukee County employee. I'm a resident of Hales Corners, 6201 South 116th Street. A little bit of history on this property. Property was acquired by the county via in rem tax foreclosure, non-payment of real estate taxes. I don't have the exact date of when it was taken, but it precedes my time at Milwaukee County, so at least for the last 10 years, this land has been under county ownership. There was substantial documentation of environmental contamination, both with the county and with the DNR, with open files on both parcels claiming contamination. The Housing Division, having access to federal funds to do brownfield remediation, decided to embark on a remediation project for the land. Much to our surprise, we discovered that, in fact, the site was not nearly as contaminated as both the DNR and the county had originally declared. So working with the DNR over the last year, We've been able to quantify the contamination essentially to lot number 2. So this lot line movement is to simply contain the recorded documented contamination in a small parcel as possible. And at this point, we do not have any future plans for the land. We do have additional funds that we could continue to use for remediation. We have not yet decided on that, but we felt it was prudent at this point to move the lot line in order to increase the value of Lot 1.
Great. Thank you. Before we go to council, we have a few residents wishing to speak. Sharon Olson, would you like to come on up? We will take all the questions, we'll take all the speakers, and then we'll try to answer the questions all at once between our staff as you come up. If you still have questions.
Thank you.
Name and address, please.
My name is Sharon Olison. I'm at 9080 South Annette Place in Oak Creek. It's 9080. I guess I was just looking for more of an explanation as to what this really meant when we received the mailing. And some of my questions that I have been answered. My one question that has not been answered is currently Annette Place is a cul-de-sac, and I see on here there is what they call official map streets. Does that mean this would eventually no longer be a cul-de-sac street?
And what you see in the dotted lines, I guess I'm breaking my own rules here because I'm going to try to answer your question. Those are proposed roads. Those are not etched in stone. Depending on what would go there, they could change. And that could stay that, and that could go through. We do like connectivity, but until something's proposed and we find out what works the best, it's really just a concept idea.
Okay, and then would the gentleman who spoke for the county be able to further explain, he talked of contamination and that there were possible further funds, that they were looking at possible remediation is the term he used. Would he be able to explain that further to us?
He could probably explain it better. Just in all transparency, I did meet with him, and I'll give you just a brief explanation. As he stated, when they took the property in lieu of taxes, the land was supposed to be contaminated. What they found for the remediation is on what would be Lot 2. The depth of that and the cost of it is yet to be determined. Whether they'd have to truck it all out, they cap it. So there's a lot of things, but they are trying to acquire them brownfield funds while they have it and isolate it out. So, David, if you'd like to give a better explanation, please, podium. You got to come up. But anyways, in layman's terms, that's kind of it. Go ahead, David.
So a phase 1 and a phase 2 was conducted by licensed independent environmental consulting services locally here. They did a thorough history check on the site, and to my understanding, the nature of the contamination suggests that sometime in the past, they cannot pinpoint exactly when, but sometime in the past, someone dumped dirty soil onto this site. So the nature of the contamination is not deep, it's not in the groundwater, it's what they're referring to as surface contamination. So that's good in that there's no threat of it traveling and seeping into the groundwater. So again, that nature of contamination gives us options for remediation. We could, like the mayor said, completely remove the soil and haul it off site. The DNR also allows for capping, basically leaving the soil where it is and then building a layer of a cap of clean soil on top of it with an order, a deed restriction against the property, basically saying it can never be disturbed again. which is a common practice and fully endorsed by the DNR. So there's a couple different ways we can handle Lot 2. And right now, we do not have any plan as to how we're going to proceed.
Thank you. Does that answer your question, Sharon? Do you have more? Microphone, please.
No, that was all my questions. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Richard Ackerman?
Richard Ackerman. I live in Oak Creek, 9060 South Annette Place.
Thank you.
I did have a question on the dump. I think that's the one he's referring to.
Yes.
And I knew they had found barrels in the ground. For some reason, they were digging and they were moving whatever. And I was at the end of Annette Place on the north end.
I have no knowledge of that. They have to do an environmental assessment of it as a set of phase 1 and 2. You may have more history of that.
I was there. I moved in there on June 10th, 1962.
Okay.
I've been around there for a long time.
Well, if that's the case, that's what they're going to be looking at. And then
Okay.
The DNR and the EPA will tell them what's appropriate to.
Okay, that's fine. That's what I wanted to find out. And I had another question. What is, with all the wetlands around there, what was going to happen to our water table eventually? Is this going to change?
Before any development could go in there, and Mike, correct me if I'm wrong, they'd have to do a wetlands delineation to find out what they could do. And there's always a stormwater management plan attached to any development going forward, because the last thing we want to do is make it worse for people. We actually try, believe it or not, we try to make it better as we improve it. So, Mike, if you want to touch on that, maybe you could help me out a little. You're kind of the expert with the wetlands.
Yes, I mean, they would need to go through the standard process, applying for a wetland fill permit, if that is what their proposal is, through the DNR, and that is by no means an automatic approval. So probably more likely that if that develops, it would have to develop around the wetlands, and the wetlands remain as they are. But no guarantees either way, but it is a very stringent process.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Eugene Skorlinski. Hi.
I'm Eugene Skorlinski, 3869 East American Avenue. The same problem is with the contamination. I don't understand why what we were told by the DNR years ago was there was a lot of contamination in that, on the drums, even including arsenic. And so all of a sudden it disappeared, by his statement. And I wonder, where is this initial report that the DNR made?
I have no knowledge of when they ever made that statement, if they ever made that statement. But again, the county would be governed by the DNR and
Right. Well, the county put these concrete blocks on American Avenue so no one could drive in there and disturb that stuff.
Well, maybe it was that, or to keep people off the property. I have no idea why the county did what they did.
Right. Well, I mean, we're coming here and, to start an approval process, and we don't seem to have any way to.
Well, it's not an approval process
Check on
to
it.
develop the land. It's really just a minor land division of the lot on there. And what they're trying to do, as they stated, is isolate the areas where they have to do some
Yeah, because
remediation.
we were involved in this from the beginning last time. They kept having change the plan, and then the DNR came and said, no, you can't build anything there.
I can't answer. I can't speak for the DNR.
Okay,
So-
well, I wish somebody would contact them.
Well, it'll go through the process, as Mike said.
And then one other thing is on their surveyor certificate, I don't understand the dedicating 30 feet to the public for a street on American Avenue.
Carrie, Can you do the right
It's
of
on
way?
that, it's that gray area on the picture.
Right, so what they're doing is the bottom 30 feet of the existing parcel, they are dedicating that portion to the city so that if the city needs to make any roadway improvements in that area, we own that parcel, that part of the
Well, for
parcel.
one thing, that's the electric company right away. There's all poles with electric lines on it. And also, it runs right into a 20-foot opening in the road where the trestle goes through. 20 foot 7 inches, as a matter of fact. So now we would have, right now we have a 30-foot road down to 20 feet. Now we would have a 60-foot road down to 20 feet. So it's of no use to the city. That's all I have.
Can I
Thank you.
address that? It's just the standard process when there's a land division for the city to get the right of way that it will need for any future road work that would happen. So, yes.
Goes nowhere.
Yeah, I understand.
Okay. And then Diane Skorlinski.
I'm Diane Skorlinski. I live at 3869 East American Avenue in Oak Creek. Like I said, I was heavily involved in the 90s when they wanted to, get this all going, and they actually came in and took away all the apple trees that were there. We have a lot of wildlife in that area. I guess my biggest concern, I understand you're just doing zoning. It's not a plan for, buildings yet.
Not zoning. It's just a land division.
Okay, land division.
Yeah, we're not changing the zoning of the property.
For
They haven't
possibly, building, on there. My biggest concern is if it ever goes through, is really American Avenue. Like I said, the road. The railroad would definitely have to be involved before anything could be done, because you can't even get 2 cars through the trestle. There's a sidewalk there that is 100% unusable. And I've been there since '81. We have never been able to use that sidewalk. And we have many people walking their dogs, many people on bikes, everything else. So we always have to take our turns waiting on one side of the trestle or the other while another car goes through. And this has gotten even heavier since the park has been there, which I love. I love the park. But I'd really like to see, before anything go in there, the railroad has to get involved, and we have to either knock out that sidewalk and make that trestle wider, where there's also 2 drainage ditches in there, or whatever you call those sewer things underneath the sidewalk, which I'm told the city of Oak Creek can't even clean because they have to be a certain amount of feet away from a railroad in order to maintain that. So actually, my husband and I are the ones that clean those. We also clean the other 2 that are right across the street from us because they keep getting filled up and all the water comes down our way. So it's a great concern, the water, the drainage, and that road area, to handle more traffic and that be, addressed before anything be built in that area. So that's my
Okay.
biggest concern.
And I'll just touch on it. We're kind of really getting the cart before the horse, but if something were to be proposed in there by a developer, what have you, a traffic analysis would go on in that area. Mm-hmm. And I was just on American yesterday.
Good.
It is tight down there.
Yeah.
And the way that end of town will continue to develop, it'll probably be addressed somewhere in the future.
I hope
How's
so.
that for a nice vague
I
answer
hope
on
so,
a
but I hear
timeline?
the railroad is really difficult to deal with, and I've been wanting to call them a lot.
Yeah.
That trestle really needs some work, and it is used.
It is different, and Mike, I don't know if we've ever really had any talks about it. It's so new in the process down there.
Yeah, not to my knowledge. And right, I mean, that trestle's been there forever. And I grew up in South Milwaukee, so I remember it when I was a little kid.
Yeah.
It's not in the greatest condition. And yes, I mean, it was built over a little rural
Right.
country road at
And
one
cars
time.
were smaller, But like I said, the main thing is there's a sidewalk, but you can't even use it.
It's very tight in there.
Yeah.
But again, if something went in here again, the streets would have to be configured in such a way, whether this went out all the way to Putes or
Okay. And just-
what have you. it's just speculation.
Yeah, that's the,
Again.
main concern that I have, and like I said, we have the waterfall when it rains by right at the end of our driveway. So I see where all the water goes, and it can only, go downhill and we're right at the end of it. So, it's just concerns that have to really be addressed before anything else.
So again, just keep in mind if it does go through, you're looking at about 19 acres on lot 1, which could house something. And of course, you got to take away the wetlands, the roads and things. So
Right.
it would all be taken into consideration by staff as it moves through the process. And if you're within 300 feet, you will be notified each step of the way.
All right, thank you.
Okay, great. That was my last speaker, I believe. The rest are for another item. If I missed anybody, now's your opportunity. Otherwise, I'll turn it over to the commission for questions. Start with you tonight, Jossie. Anything? Fred?
Yeah, I just have one question again.
Sure.
It's lot 2 that really is the one that's contaminated.
That is
or-
what the county's saying that the report showed. That's the reason they're.
That's why we're separating it.
So
Control
so if they decide to remediate and they have the funds, they can isolate that lot and then plan around it.
See no problem with that.
Okay. Don?
No questions.
Chris? Don?
No, I think the conditions listed here would catch any concerns that engineering has, so I agree that this is just land separation, nothing more, so, at this time, so no questions, concerns.
It's kind of my comment too. Like I say, I did meet with the applicants. I wasn't even aware the county owned the land at first, but they gave me the same explanation you heard tonight. And really, it's isolation of that and find out what the cost would be and really what needs to be done. And we talked about 3 different options that could go on there. Again, keep in mind, it's not uncommon to do this. Lake Vista is actually a great example of the DNR taking control, leading the process as to what can be capped and what can be built upon down there. So they're very strict and stringent as to what they do when it comes to remediation of this land. So beyond that, even if they just clean it up and it remains field, it's a positive for the city. So I don't have any issues with the land division. So barring no other questions, motion please.
Guzekowski make a motion that the Plan Commission recommends to the Common Council that the certified survey map minor land division submitted by David Calder, Danny, Milwaukee County for the properties at 3810 East American Avenue and 9050 South Annette Place be approved with the following conditions. 1, that a minimum 25-foot public water easement is included across Lot 2 prior to recording. 2, that a temporary easement for temporary cul-de-sacs at Brandine Court and Annette Place on Lot 2 are coordinated with the city. 3, that the CSM includes future street pattern on official map and or dedicates the public right-of-way for such. 4, that the Common Council approves signature block includes the dedication of the right-of-way. And 5, that all technical corrections, including but not limited to spelling errors, minor coordinate geometry corrections, and corrections required for compliance with municipal court and Wisconsin statutes are made prior to recording.
Seifert seconds.
Roll call.
Simmons, aye.
Grillo, aye.
Gavich, aye.
Guzekowski, aye.
Ladani, aye.
Seifert, aye.
Chandler, aye.
Thank you all from the neighborhood for coming out. And like I say, as if things do progress that way, you will be notified as long as your property is within 300 feet. So, moving on to item 5B, it is a signed plan review for Waterstone Bank at 8780 South Howell. They are taking over the old Bank Mutual building. So, Carrie.
That's correct. The proposal is for one 2.5-foot by 22-foot channel letter sign that'll be mounted to a raceway, and that raceway will be mounted to the southwest corner of the roof. The property in question is in red on the screen. Related to the sign package, they are actually going to be removing that existing pole sign in favor of a ground monument sign. It will be in compliance with all code requirements. This is purely for Plan Commissioner information. This is what the proposed roof sign looks like. Per code, roof signs are limited to a maximum height of 10 feet above the roof, and they are also limited to a maximum of 100 square feet if the building is located less than 300 feet from a right-of-way, as this one is. And as proposed, this sign does meet all of those code requirements. The existing directional signs that are on the property will also be upgraded in their existing locations just for branding purposes and for a little bit better directional flow. Those do not need Plan Commission review. They are all compliant. If the Plan Commission is satisfied with the proposed sign as proposed and as shown on this plan, there is a suggested motion that the Plan Commission approves the sign plan submitted by Al Scheinflug, Waterstone Bank SSB for the property at 8780 South Howell Avenue, subject to conditions 1 and 2. Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Carrie. We'll open it up right away to the commission. We have no speakers. Mike, we'll start with you. How's that?
I have no questions or concerns with the proposal.
Okay. Dawn? I do not as well. Okay. Chris?
No, I'm glad to see the building's going to be moving along. And
Donnie?
No questions.
No
Fred?
objections.
Chauncey?
I do have a question for the applicant.
Anybody here from Sign Defects or a Waterstone representative? Can you approach a podium, please? What do I want to say? Name and address, please.
Bank.
On the microphone.
Al Scheinflug, Waterstone Bank.
Thank you.
11200 West Plank Court is corporate office.
Okay.
Okay, I just wanted to get a better understanding of how this sign is attached to the roof. I guess I'm not understanding.
Late today, I got some updated information for you on how we're going to install this. It's got some angle iron on it to support it to the roof.
So does it attach to the gutters? Oh, to the roof itself. And can you explain this attachment?
Don could probably explain this better. It's just going to be some angle iron. It will be fastened to the roofing and then sealed in. We can probably bring the roofer in to see if we can flash around it to create a better water seal.
Thank you.
Is that it? As long as you're up, you ain't gonna illuminate it, or are you gonna?
Yes, it is illuminated. It's actually illuminated from the front and the back, so it creates like a silhouette. So there's some panel behind it, so it reflects off of as the roof runs up on an angle.
Okay. Like the wayfinding signs, it's a busy site. I think that's an improvement for sure. And I think somebody had the thank you sign on there and the wrong way signs. And again, it gets pretty busy in there, so I think it's an improvement. It'll help the bank, so I'm good with it. Right. Okay, motion.
Seifert moves that the Planning Commission approves the sign plan submitted by L. Steinplug, Waterstone Bank, SSB, for the property at 8780 South Howell Avenue with the following conditions. 1, that all relevant codes requirement remain in effect. 2, that any revised plans are submitted in digital format for review and approved by the Department of Community Development prior to the submission of permit applications.
Aldani seconds.
Roll call.
Simmons, aye.
Grillo, aye.
Gavich, aye.
Kuzikowski, aye.
Aldani, aye.
Seifert, aye.
Chandler, aye.
Great. Thank you, guys. Good luck. That brings us to 5C, and it's consideration of a conditional use permit for a portion of the existing building and lot to be used for a contractor shop office yard, limited outdoor storage at 9840 South 27th Street. Carrie.
So plan commissioners may recall that this was the subject of a conditional use permit last year. It was approved by the Common Council in January for automobile and truck engine and body repair, outdoor storage of vehicles, and outdoor display of vehicles for sale, and semi-truck and trailer parking. So if you will also recall, at that time, the landowner had mentioned that in the future, this property could be subleased. And in fact, they did find a tenant for part of the space. In fact, they are looking for about 60% of the premises to be leased to Telcom Construction, which is a utility contractor. This is for premises and for portion of the building. So what you have on the screen right now is the portion of the building that would be split between the two users. And then this is a conceptual drawing showing where the two users would share the parking space, the outdoor storage space behind the existing fence. So Telcom Construction is looking for office and field operation headquarters for the duration of a local contract. They are anticipating about 6 to 10 employees per shift, with about 4 to 5 on site at any given time. And field employees would be dispatched from this location, as well as engineers. So they are looking for hours of operation to pretty closely mirror those of M&M Trucking. They would be open 6 a.m. to 7 p.m., although they are not anticipating any customers to be coming to their site. They're actually going to be going out to sites for those contracts. As such, M&M Truck Center is reducing their on-site staff to about 8 to 12. And they are also going to be reducing their truck and trailer parking behind the fence to accommodate the new space for the Telcom lease. The M&M Truck Center spaces are going to be reduced to about 15 for their truck and trailer parking. And then that 4-stall parking area that was for the display of vehicles for sale is going to remain in that same location. Both the users are going to have their parking for truck and vehicles behind the existing fence, as previously mentioned. It is designated on this plan where those two lease areas would be. They're going to share about 17 parking stalls, and they are also going to share the customer parking area that is west of the building. And if we talk about the outdoor storage areas, there have been 2 that are identified for Telcom specifically. Right now, this was the previously approved site plan for the M&M Truck Center proposal. And these 2 areas in yellow are where the proposed laydown areas and sand and gravel storage areas are proposed. Again, those are within the Telcom identified parking stalls behind the fence. So things that they would be parking outside after hours would include trucks and equipment. They had something about horizontal directional drills, backhoes, mobile vacs, etc. Those kinds of pieces of equipment, whatever can't be fit inside the actual building, they're looking to store outside. But again, it's behind a fence that's already there. The 2 areas that are specified here in yellow would have utility poles and pedestals, cable spools, handholds, and then on the southern end is where they're proposing, I believe, to have their sand and gravel storage, and that area would be surrounded by a concrete block. So these are some of the examples from another location that Telcom is leasing of some of the outdoor storage and some of the indoor storage of their materials. This is what would be proposed around the sand and gravel area. And these are the poles that would be in that other laydown area. If the Plan Commission could turn to your proposed conditions and restrictions, this is inclusive of the original approval, but there are some changes to accommodate the lease. So page 1 of 9 under 2C, just highlighting again that all plans for new buildings, additions, exterior remodeling, site modifications, and landscaping shall be submitted to the Plan Commission for review and approval prior to the issuance of a building or occupancy permit. That is not changing, just highlighting it to let everybody know that that is still a requirement. On page 2 of 9, under section E, a landscaping plan must be submitted for review and approval by the Plan Commission prior to the issuance of a building or occupancy permit. Landscaping in accordance with the approved plan shall be in place prior to the issuance of an occupancy permit. Again, that's retained language from the original conditional use permit. Under Section 3, site and use restrictions, maintenance and operation requirements, this is where we had to split out what is required specifically for M&M Trucking per that original conditional use permit amendment or conditional use permit approval, and then the amendment for the contractor's office, shop, and yard with outdoor storage. So under Section B, whatever is under automobile and truck and engine body repair did not change. We just split it out. And under contractor's office, shop, yard with outdoor storage, this is all brand new. So temporary parking of trucks and equipment associated with the business, i.e. or e.g., horizontal directional drills, backhoes, mobile excavators, shall be located within the fenced area in designated and striped stalls. There shall be no storage of unlicensed vehicles or vehicles and equipment not associated with the operation of the business. It's similar to what was required for M&M Truck. Temporary outdoor storage of materials such as utility poles and pedestals, cable spools, handholds, shall be in the locations as designated on the plan, so those 2 yellow boxes that I showed you, and also on the plan that showed where Telcom's property or parking behind the fence would be. Sand and gravel shall be stored within concrete block surrounds. These storage areas, including the concrete block surrounds, shall be removed at the discontinuation of the use, the end or termination of the lease, or at the expiration of the conditional use permit. There shall be no outdoor storage outside of or above the height of the fenced area. And finally, hours of operation are split between the automobile and truck engine and body repair, outdoor storage of vehicles, outdoor display of vehicles, the conditional use part for M&M Truck from the contractor's office, yard, and shop. And then the last section that I'd like to draw the Plan Commission's attention to is Section 8, duration of conditional use permit on page 4 of 9. Again, this is incorporating the original approval that allowed for 6 years for the automobile and truck engine and body repair use. It also allows for 2 years for this conditional use permit amendment. So for the contractor's yard, office, and shop, that would be allowed for 2 years from the date of approval, and we do have an expiration date of July 2021 in here. And before the expiration date of either permit, should the applicant or his lessee want to extend those approvals, we would have to come before the Plan Commission and request an amendment. With that, if the Plan Commission is satisfied with the proposal and the conditions and restrictions, there is a suggested motion that the Plan Commission recommends that the Common Council approve a conditional use permit amendment to allow a contractor's office, shop, and yard with limited outdoor storage on the property at 9840 South 27th Street after a public hearing. Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Carrie. Before we go to commission, would the applicant like to say a few things or brief us on anything? Name and address, sir.
My name is Dragan Radeta, 7228 South 27th Street. I'm the property owner, so I just want to first thank city staff to for help putting this together. One thing that I have no problem regarding restrictions and regulations. There is one thing that, if you can consider it or not, they sign up three-year lease. So I'm not sure if you can consider that as a 3-year term. Again, if 2-year term is strict, then I have to see with them if they wanna reassign lease. So that's one thing. So as was explained, that we will be downsizing. I hired an architect to split the building for two separate tenants. Things that we will do, we'll install additional 2 bathrooms for their use, to be with the code. Replace all lighting, insulate the building, install sprinkler system. Sprinkler system is already being installed as we speak. Repair and replace all HVAC units as necessary. Again, dwelling electrical HVAC permit have been applied for, and we're just waiting for approvals. Plumbing permit is applied, and we did get plumbing permit. So landscaping plan is submitted at page exhibit DP5. So that's all what I have to say. I mean, if you have any questions, feel free to, to ask. Otherwise, I can turn to Ivan, who is with the Telecom Construction, if you have any questions for them, for their operation.
Thank you. Wish to speak, sir? What's that?
Ivan Heidi with Telcom Construction. If you have any questions about the operation of our business, I'd be happy to answer them. So,
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Chris, what do you say we start with you? It's your district.
Well, I'm glad that you were able to find someone to help with the lease here, so that helps a little bit on the front end here for you. I did have that was one of my questions I had written down about the 3-year term, whether that was agreed upon by, that was something that the staff came up with for the 2-year term or a 3-year term, or did they, Telecom want a longer term?
Typically, and Carrie, I'm gonna just speak here. Typically, we do 2-year sunsets, don't we? Or, go ahead.
We didn't actually have the lease term at the time of writing the conditions and restrictions. We felt 2 years would be potentially appropriate. So without that information, we threw that out there for Plan Commission consideration. Now that we know that there's a three-year lease term, I think that staff would be comfortable with proposing that change within the conditions and restrictions. After 3 years, we would require them to come back for an amendment.
And that's good. Thank you. Thanks, Carrie.
Don, anything?
no, I have no questions.
Fred,
Oh, looks good.
Chauncey?
I do have a question about Telecom, the company.
Certainly, go ahead.
Where are the headquarters of this company?
The headquarters are in Minnesota.
Minnesota.
Yeah.
So are the headquarters moving here?
No, so what this is a regional office, and I'm the regional manager for this area for Wisconsin. We cover an area of southeast Wisconsin, well, southern Wisconsin, and all of eastern Wisconsin, going north to basically the Marinette area. And we have crews that would be doing installations across the state. So this is a key component for two of our contracts. Actually, would be main office out of here, and then we've had satellite offices to support those contracts as well across other parts of the state.
So this is in addition to the location in Milwaukee, or will this replace that one?
Yes, we'll still keep that as well. That site is kind of overcrowded right now because of the amount of work that we have going on, and we need to expand out. So the amount of contracts we've had, we have to keep expanding. So it's a good problem to have.
Yes. Thank you.
Okay. Mike?
I do have a question, and I'm glad this graphic is up on the screen. It appears the back of the business, the east side, there's a significant portion of the parking lot area that is not paved currently. Is that what I'm seeing on the aerial photo? Or is that just
To be quite honest, I'm not sure what's there because the property was vacant for like 7-8 years. So everything is all, overgrown, and, so if that's unpaved and if you need to pave it, I have no problem to pave it. It's just I have no problem with it. So.
Okay. On the far east end, you're talking by the semi-trucks?
yes.
Okay.
It appears that the pavement's gone. I don't know if there was a building there prior or what, but it looks like now maybe it's just gravel. Can't say for sure.
Dawn? Okay. I really, my only question was, and it was in the reading, was on the sunset. And that's been addressed. So if staff is comfortable with the 3-year, and you're comfortable with it, please include it in the motion. So if nothing further, should we include the paving if needed? What's your opinion on that, Carrie?
I believe that's already incorporated into the existing conditions. And if not, it's a code requirement. So we can cover it that way. If you want to include it as an additional condition within the conditions and restrictions, we can certainly do that prior to council approval. I would just need the Plan Commission's direction on that.
Yeah.
that we should add that, please.
That's fine. I'm having a tough time seeing it, but I don't look at these things like Mike does, so they're the experts. Okay. Other than that, motion.
Guzekowski makes a motion that the Plan Commission recommends that the Common Council approve the conditional use permit amendment to allow a contractor's office, shop, and yard with limited outdoor storage at the property at 9840 South 27th Street after a public hearing.
Seifert seconds.
Include the sunset?
And with the change to the sunset of 3 years.
Staff will incorporate the comments that have been received during the conversation.
Thank you.
Second concurs.
Roll call.
Simmons, aye.
Grillo, aye.
Kavich, aye.
Guzekowski, aye.
Goldani, aye.
Seifert, aye.
Chandler, aye.
Great. Good luck, guys. Be safe. Gets us to 5D. And that is a plan review for the property at 9330 South Shepherd for the Oak Creek Franklin School District. So, Carrie.
And commissioners will recall that this was held at the April 23rd meeting to allow the applicant and their consultants some time to address the concerns and the comments that were made at that meeting. Some of those comments include landscaping and buffer areas between the residential properties along Shepherd Avenue and the proposed facilities and addressing the concern there. While I have the landscape plan up on the screen, I can show you that in these proposed landscape plans, that tree line buffer that was on the west has now been expanded a bit to include new plantings. Approximately 14 trees will be incorporated with that tree line. The 2 baseball diamonds have also been moved 10 feet to the east. We have received lighting details and some fixture elements to help address the concern about how they would affect the residential properties in the area. And per the submitted information from the applicant and their consultants, with moving those facilities 10 feet to the east, it provided for a 0.0 foot candle measurement at the property line on the west. With the light fixture cut sheets, it also addressed some of the shielding concerns that staff and some of the residents had brought up, as well as some of the plan commissioners. So each of those light fixtures will be shielded and pointed down. There was a question regarding programming of the fields and anticipated hours of use for all sorts of games, whether they're district, whether they're rental facilities or what have you. They did provide a rental and usage policy, and rather than getting into the details here, I would rather defer to the applicant to kind of address any concerns or questions regarding usage or rental. There was some concern about grading in the vicinity of the residential properties on the west as well. We did receive an updated grading plan that incorporates now 25 feet from the edge of the grading to those properties on the west. So there is a bit of a buffer area included in that area. So hopefully that will address some of those concerns. However, there is a question about 4-to-1 slopes, and I would defer to the city engineer to determine if that is concerning at all. The grading plan is now on the screen. It's oriented such that north is to the left hand of the screen. And finally, there was a question about timing for construction, and the applicant has indicated a desired start time of August 2019 for construction. If there are any questions about the proposal or any of the new plans or the old plans, I'd be happy to address them as best I can or address that to the applicant and their consultants. However, there is a suggested motion that the Plan Commission approves the site plan submitted by the Oak Creek Franklin Joint School District for the property at 9330 South Shepherd Avenue, subject to conditions 1 through 3. Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Carrie. Would the applicant from the school district like to say a few words concerning the changes?
You bet. Andy Cromie, Chief Business and Finance Officer. Carrie mentioned most of the changes. 25 feet from property owner's line and taking the entire set of both fields, moving them 10 feet to the east. 0-foot candles hitting any of the neighboring properties from the lights that are being there. Drainage being funneled, you'll notice a retention to the north, mostly above the softball field, but retention of water being funneled to that particular area. We also met with community members last week, Thursday, so the 6th of June, discussed all of the things that were being amended and proposed tonight as well, and to hear their concerns or field any more questions that they may have in preparation for tonight. I think that is all I have at this time.
Great, thank you. Before we go to the commission, we have some residents wishing to speak. Jennifer Sipler. Oh, you do not wish to speak, but if you want it read into the record, I can read what you have. Okay. No, not unless you want to come up here. Okay, come on up. What a compromise, eh?
I'm very quiet and shy.
Name and address, please.
Jennifer Siepler, 441 East Arthur Drive. I was part of the group of moms that became the Yes for Oak Creek Schools group. There were just a bunch of moms, and we would meet at some of the restaurants in the area to try to strategize to get the word out that people in the city should vote yes for Oak Creek Schools. And this was part of the referendum, and the city voters approved it 55% to 45%. I'm looking at some of these houses on the bottom and thinking, those people have a front row seat to two of the top teams in the state. And I'm a little jealous at this point. But I really hope that you let this plan go forth. I mean, a lot of work went into this, and a lot of just community members really supported this referendum, and I would love to see it go forward. I don't have either a player, baseball or softball. I just think it's really important for our community to have a place where we can go. When I have been to baseball games, there's just people, they don't have grandkids, they don't have players on the team, they just come and watch, and I really think it's another great thing in Oak Creek for the community. So, thank you.
Thank you very much. Next, Robert Champagne, 1131 East Elm. Would you like to say a few words, please? Name and address, please.
Robert Champagne, 1131 East Elm Road. I just wanted to say I've been a resident of Oak Creek for 11 years now, and when I made the decision to move to Oak Creek, there were a few things that went into it. One was the quality of the school district. I'm a school teacher in a different school district, but I chose Oak Creek because of the high quality of the schools, and part of a quality school district is things such as athletics and extracurricular activities. So I feel very strongly that this needs to go through to continue to upgrade our schools and our city as a whole. When we're looking, as our city expands, we're looking to attract more quality families. Families do look at these types of things as they're moving into our district, and obviously there's a lot of expansion going on. I also moved here for the forward thinking of the community of Oak Creek, which it continues to grow and it does continue to move forward. So I see this as a huge value to the community. As a taxpayer, I do know that when it is time for me to depart the city, which will eventually happen, it only increases my property values. It does improve things for myself as well. I also noticed the issues with Abendschein Park, being that I believe the school is renting it. The school district does not
We
own
have
it.
a memorandum of understanding, so it is their exclusive ball field right now.
Okay. But any improvements made by the district technically don't belong to the district. Am I correct?
Correct. Once they're done, the city assumes ownership of that.
Okay. And so I see that as a concern as a taxpayer and as an educator, that we would be putting money into something that doesn't belong to the district. But my other concern also is, I know currently behind home plate and getting up to the first base dugout, it is located on a 100-year floodplain. And as we continue to grow the city, that floodplain's not going to recede. It maybe it stays the same at best, but not realistically. Eventually, that field's going to need to be changed if we want to continue to have a high quality level of athletics at that field. So we do have a need for growth there. And, I'm speaking on behalf of a baseball team that I have nothing to do with, quite honestly. But I believe it's very important for the community as a whole to be looking at that and be looking for the upgrades, not just for current residents, but for future residents as well.
Thank you. And Teresa Bear.
Teresa Bear, 8800 South Clover Circle, Oak Creek. So I am the president of the high school booster club for softball. I had a son who went through 4 years on the baseball program. He's now 20. Daughter who's halfway through her high school career at Oak Creek. A couple things to consider, especially about Abendschein. You're playing on a baseball diamond that's far away from the school. It's hard for teams, support. It's always packed, mostly by parents, to be honest with you. One thing that I like about the new proposal more so than anything is that you have the baseball and softball teams, especially now that we're both spring sports, together. You're going to have where the high school can get together and watch all their buddies playing at once, which is a huge positive for the community. I live in the subdivision behind where the new ball field is proposed. Based upon the noise that you can hear from Lions Fest at my house, I don't think a few ball games a year that run until 9 o'clock at night are going to be any more of a concern or disturbance. I can hear the band and I can hear anyone at the Legion. And we're we're just a mile from East Middle School. So it's going to be the same. Those baseball and softball don't cause those type of disturbance. And I know that was something that was brought up at previous meetings was disturbance, lighting. No more lighting than the carnivals across the street for the week of Lions Fest. So those are all things that I think we need to take in consideration. We're doing something that's good for the community. You're not talking about bad kids here. You're talking about the kids who are doing something to stay out of trouble. And that's something too that we all need to consider when we're doing these types of things. I think people are worried you're gonna have bad kids walking through their yard or those types of things. These are good families and good kids. And we hold our kids to a higher standard. And those are all things that I want everyone to consider.
Okay, thank you. And lastly, Dave Copland. Dave?
Dave Copland, 9150 South Shepherd Avenue, Oak Creek. I was at the meeting last week, Thursday. New plans were presented to us in the neighborhood, and everything is fine. One thing I want to draw your attention to is where the pond is, up in the upper left-hand corner of the map, the wetland. The area just below it, or it would be west of it, with the direction. I walked it again over the weekend, and there has been dumping in that area. There's probably about, I would say, 6 or 7 dump truck loads of dirt that's piled probably this high, that's grown over with weeds and stuff. And then this year in spring, there were some other loads dumped, which I did mention at last week's meeting. Probably 20, 25 loads where a school little dump truck comes in, a little red truck, and dump lots, piles in various places. So I think that should be looked at when they're going to do this. If this is part of the grading plan to create the the retention pond, that's fine. But if it's not, if it's just going to sit there and stay there, it's probably going to block water flow that would not end up in the retention pond.
Mike, you have any knowledge?
No, not at all. I don't know if the school district is aware that somebody was depositing material there. We can check it out.
Yeah.
Shouldn't be happening.
It was the school district. It would come in. They got this red pickup truck.
If it's
not
a
pickup,
if it's a
small
school
dump truck.
vehicle again, it's definitely not going to stay there. They're not going to put these facilities in and have those things there. Nor would it be allowed because that drainage is going to have to meet city
Right,
specs.
right. That's the question that was raised, was drainage too.
But yeah, the dumping should not be going on, particularly without knowledge. We will look into that, Dave. So, seeing no other speakers, I'll open it up to the commission. Let's start down by you, Chauncey. No, nothing. Fred.
Yeah, I think it's a little crowded for 2 ball diamonds there. I think you could have 1 ball diamond, and you got one just on the south side of it that could also be used and fixed up. I just think we're piling a lot of stuff into a small bag in a small area, and I also see some parking problems down the road because of the activities of the ball diamond and then the school activities at times. So that's just my opinion.
Don?
I like the design. The third diamond, the existing diamond, that's, from what I understood, that's still going to be used for the JV softball team, girls softball team, correct?
Yep, part of the district's capital improvement plan is some minor modifications to that to help drainage stay off of the road and get run underneath. But that would essentially become the JV softball diamond at that point.
Right. Yep. No, I like it. Probably way overdue. So I really have no further questions.
Chris?
I think it looks good. I appreciate that coming to the table and working with the neighbors on this and making sure everybody was heard, and I appreciate that. Thank you.
On?
I just want to comment that I think the changes since the last plan and the comments goes a long way towards addressing those comments. So it's all positive.
Okay. I'll just put my 2 cents in. I was not here for the very first meeting. Just to Jennifer's comments, this was done by the voters, this referendum. I think the school came up with a nice layout. They had some details to work out when I got back, and they had to work on landscape and lighting, and they had some questions to answer, and they obviously did their homework. It's kind of a pun with the schools there. Everybody can laugh. But anyways, they seem to have gotten it right. Carrie mentioned it. They shifted ball fields. The dirt issue, we'll definitely look into, Dave, but again, it will be taken into account because the runoff is important. Mr. Champagne's views on Abendschein, I don't want to really get off topic, but you are correct with spring ball. They've lost some significant games there. It'll be a JV field, but there could be modifications done there in the near future too. We try to keep a partnership through an MOU with the schools. Very supportive of it. As far as layout, I like it. I really don't think it's too crowded. I mean, I've been to the Little League Park, and they essentially kind of lay out about the same, and the Rock's pretty similar that way too, which is a really world-class facility. So I do agree. It's also, just for the public knowledge, helps solve them hosting WIAA games. If you're not aware, the boys baseball team qualified for state, and they can only host so many games going forward at Abendschein, and then the field doesn't meet WIAA specs and things of that nature. So this will definitely be an improvement. So thank the school district for working with staff, and staff for working with the school district, and I think we can all kind of move ahead. So if nothing else, motion, please. Oh, you got something to say, Don?
I do.
Go ahead.
Just wanted to point out that there is actually even a bigger positive of this. I have a daughter went through East, a daughter that's in East, and even just simple school functions, parking is tough. And opening this up, and I hope this isn't going to be limited, this parking won't be limited to just when there's a sporting event, a softball game, because anyone who's been there knows parking goes along the exit road going out, and if this could be utilized during school functions, which I assume it would, it's actually going to be a huge improvement for parking in general. You already have the varsity softball games there, and just last week there was a school function and a softball game, and parking was tough, and 148 extra spots is going to go a long way, I think. Just wanted to add that in for, there is an extra bonus to this.
Anybody else? If not, Motion, please.
Guzekowski will make a motion that the Planning Commission approves the site plans submitted by the Oak Creek Franklin Joint School District for the property at 9330 South Shepherd Avenue with the following conditions. 1, that all relevant code requirements remain in effect. 2, that the landscape plan is revised to incorporate city forester comments as needed. And 3, that all revised site plans, site building, landscaping, east elevation, etc. are submitted in digital format for review and approval by the Department of Community Development prior to submission of permit applications.
Oldani seconds.
Roll call.
Simmons, aye.
Grillo, aye.
Gavich, aye.
Guzekowski, aye.
Oldani, aye.
Seifert, no.
Chandler, aye.
There you have it. Congratulations. And again, as it was stated, construction should start sometime in August. So,
When would, excuse me,
go
sir.
ahead.
When do you think the construction will be complete? Are you guys try to get next year's spring ball on there?
So, no, so trying to get as much of the groundwork as we can in the fall, and then the rest to be completed in early to late spring. We're planning on seeding it, because that'll take about a year to set, and if we were to set it, it would just get torn up in the spring anyway, so it'll give us a full year, and we'll have a longer life on that seeded grass anyways.
Got it.
thank you. Before we adjourn, just a couple of quick announcements. Summer solstice kicks off this weekend at Drexeltown Square. It immediately follows our farmers market. It goes from 4 to 11. There will be bands, food, and beverage there, so please, if you can, take some time, come visit the square. Also, congratulations to our own Chris Guzekowski, our alderman in the 6th District. He is the Oak Creek Citizen of the Year, and he will be awarded at a dinner at the community center this Friday night. So congratulations, Chris, on myself and my wife and the entire staff here at City Hall.
Thank you.
Quite an achievement. And then we do have our farmers market manager here, and she would like to do a shameless plug for the market.
It is the first week of the crafters and the artists are coming. So I think we have 10 to 15 artisans coming to the center of the square around the beer tent that the Solstice will be putting up. So if anybody needs a yard sign, I also have yard signs for the farmers market.
They're back here in the advertisements. Appreciate it.
Yep.
And again, congratulations to the boys baseball team. Very first successful venture into spring ball, qualifying for states. With that, adjournment.
Carrillo moves to adjourn at 7:06.
Seifert, seconds.
Roll call.
Simmons, aye.
Carrillo, aye.
Kavich, aye.
Guzekowski, aye.
Oldani, aye.
Seifert, aye.
Chandler, aye.
Great. Thank you all for coming out. Appreciate it.